Good evening. Welcome to Lower Frederick Township Board of Supervisors work session for February 25th, 2025. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, township meetings are recorded for the purpose of preparing the minutes, and the recording is destroyed after the minutes are approved. The meeting will be posted online on the Township YouTube channel. The link can be found on the Board of Supervisors page on the Township website. It is requested that all persons wishing to speak before the board shall state their name, address, and the subject matter upon which they wish to speak for the record. In the interest of facilitating the business of the board, all persons addressing the board shall be limited to 3 minutes unless such time is extended by the chair for good cause. Individuals are requested to remain in their seats and respect when other persons are speaking. The Board of Supervisors will provide a reasonable opportunity for citizens to comment on any non-agenda items after the agenda items have been addressed, but prior to the adjournment of the public meeting. Okay, roll call, all in attendance except for Marla. She's on Zoom this evening, and all of our staff are in attendance. First order of business this evening is the 2025 I&I project quote discussion.
Okay.
And I believe we have Bob Preston on Zoom this evening.
Yes, we do. So last July, Bob Preston gave a presentation regarding our updated I&I program and a plan for the sewer system. He had some difficulty getting more than one quote last year, and it got too late in the year to start the project. Bob was able to secure 2 quotes, which is what is in front of you tonight. They are both CoStar vendors, so the board can choose whichever company they want to work with. We've budgeted $31,500 for this. The goal being that we try to have 6,000 feet per year of our sewer main videoed and inspected. During the process, if damage is found, we will evaluate whether to fix now or plan for a future repair. I did add the presentation from last year as a refresher for you guys. And as Noel stated, Bob is on Zoom if you have questions.
Okay, well, I'm really not quite sure where to start. I'm not familiar with this particular subject. But I can say, just looking at the estimates that we do have, I guess, Bob, my question for you is, how do we determine how much this is actually going to cost to stay within the budget of 31.5? It seems like we're not going to know how much it costs until they actually go out and do the work.
We control it. We only let them spend less than 31.5. And both the companies are aware of that. That's what we have budgeted, and what doesn't get done, we hold for next year.
Okay, and I would imagine that based on that presentation you gave last year, where you had it broke down into zones, that we would be focusing on that initial one where the leaks have already been kind of suspect.
Yes, we will be focusing on the areas that are suspect already. I believe they crossed 2 zones. I believe Tommy's there just to verify it, but we will start with that area where we know the I&I is.
Can you refresh my memory on where exactly that they're located? Was that over in Cedar Hill?
I believe the townhomes over there, I believe that's so.
What road? Zieglerville Road? Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And then back towards Lorraine. Okay, I remember that. All right, so that's pretty much where the focus is going to be on this.
To start, yes.
Okay. And I see here that your suggestion is to go with sewer specialty services, and we've used these folks before?
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody on the board have any questions?
This is Marla. Bob answered my question, which was the one he went with. And Bob, so you're familiar with that work, and you would have no qualms about bringing them in again?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
1,000 feet. Turn left.
Yeah, he's driving.
So Bob, you're basically saying we would throttle whatever the contractor does to get to a certain amount? Is that right?
Correct. We'll go in, we'll TV the suspect areas first. And we'll get a list and we keep a tally. And then when they go to do the repair portion, we only release the amount of money that we want to spend.
So how many of these items that are listed on here, there's quite a few of them, are actually going to be executed? I mean, I see here a two-person crew for an 8-hour day for the CCTV clean, test, and grout CIPP installation prevailing, blah, 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 is $48.50 for the day. Is that like a baseline and all this other stuff is extra, or is this a total?
Well, that's the baseline for a TV grout crew. I believe there's a price in for gallons of grout used, which grout is one of the repairs available to us. So yeah, to have a TV truck on site for one day is roughly 4,800.
So that's the starting right there.
Yeah, that's the start to get them out to start the TV.
Okay.
Then there's also a mob on both of them. I don't know what the actual number is.
850.
850. Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions?
All right, because I guess, when I looked at the quotes, I was just having a hard time comparing one to the other because I wasn't sure exactly how this was going to go in terms of how it was going to be executed. I kind of figured there would be an inspection at some fixed rate and then reports generated, and then we decide what we can act on, right?
Yeah, they'll go through and they'll TV these lines, log where they are, manhole to manhole, direction, house laterals, and what they find. Before they do any repairs, we would be spot checking them, either Tommy or I, or a combination thereof, as they're running through the development. And we'll have a list of what they find. We can choose what to complete at that time, or hold off and maybe get some more TV and do some more repairs later on down the road.
And I don't know whether you answered this question, but
Okay, go ahead.
it looks to me like we'll be focusing initially on what you referred to as the center zone.
Yes, I believe that's where one of the major I&I portions are.
Right, so that looks like that's along Zieglerville Road.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess the only question I have would be for Colby. Welcome. Because of the 31.5, would this require a bid? Or is this just perfect, like I'm trying to wrap, I think because it's.
They're both CoStar vendors.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right, okay, I remember, thank you for clarifying
So,
that.
so even
Okay.
though they're priced,
I just wanna make sure.
it's,
And it's also, I mean, just verify with Peter, I don't want to speak out of turn. But being CoStar, as Jason was alluding to, they've already done the public bidding process through the state. But they need a minimum of 2 quotes when it goes over, and it's maintenance, so I think it's excluded from prevailing wage anyway. Verify with Peter, jump in there if I'm saying something wrong.
That's correct.
Perfect.
They do mention prevailing wage on here, so I'm guessing that this does not apply to this then.
That wouldn't apply. Some lawyers want it, some lawyers don't. So I had to put it on there just to have it in my palm.
Because it looks like it's something, just one specific line item that it applies to, which is the CIPP installation.
Oh, that's the biggest item, but if it goes into prevailing wage, it goes across all of it.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions,
But I mean, the goal is to do 6,000 feet in any one year, right?
Yes, if not more. It all depends on what we find because we do want to start repairing.
So like in terms of days, how long do you think that would be of camera work?
6,000 would probably be 5 days. Maybe more, but so depending on, we don't have much traffic on our roads. So they're moving fairly fast.
Yep.
They slow down when we're on more public roads and they have to do with the traffic control. So, but they just crawl and keep moving.
okay,
So I mean, that kind of gets us to close to the 30.
31.5. Yeah, it's,
yeah.
it's like 6 days.
Yeah.
Yep. And as I said, we can go 4 days and save stuff for repair, or just the first year do all the TV. All that we can get in for the 31.5.
Yeah, I mean, whatever makes sense. I would think if you know where the hot spots are, to go for them first and fix them.
Exactly.
Okay, Marla, do you have any other questions?
I do not, thank you. It was very helpful. Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I didn't put a motion. I was not expecting action. If you guys if you want to wait for next week or want some more time to, it's up to you guys.
I'm okay. I don't know if can we make a decision tonight?
Yeah, there's no reason you can't. I mean, I know with work study, if you want more time to, with what Bob answered and stuff, I'm just saying that's why there was no recommended motion or anything on the summary.
I mean, if it's not time critical, we just wait till next week.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Then we can, yeah. Okay, moving on.
Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next on our agenda this
Oh,
evening.
phooey.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
No, I'm just trying to mute myself. Sorry.
But I wanted to ask Bob a question.
Oh, I apologize, Diane. I didn't see you up there. Can we take,
Diane, yeah, since Bob's here, Diane Jern, Zieglerville Road. Bob, I just wanted an update on your sewer designing. I know that the Schwenksville Borough Authority.
Diane, I'm sorry. That's actually not on our agenda tonight. Can you save that for another time?
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bob Burns, Zieglerville Road. Do we have any expectations of getting any grant money for the I&I work?
I don't believe so. We budgeted for it.
Well, but I mean, if the grant money is available, it would be nice to use that along with the money that we have for the balance of that, so.
So assuming we were to motion for this on Tuesday, is Bob still here? When do you anticipate that you guys that would get started? Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Well, if you guys motioned I'd have to contact the company and get them on the schedule. We don't want them to do any TV work until we get some weather. Because we want the rain, we want to be able to see the inflow into the pipes. So
Understood.
we'd have to call them, get logged into their system, and then wait for the next event.
Are there grants available for this sort of work?
I do not believe so.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I don't see any more hands raised and no more questions, so we can move on to our next item, which is the third-party mowing for township properties.
Okay, so as the board may recall, during the 2025 budget discussions, it was brought up about bringing in a third party to do some or all of the mowing of the township properties during the summertime. And we were given direction to for myself and Public Works to put information together for the board to discuss, which is what you have in front of you. So we have determined the list of grounds to be maintained. I don't know that we want to
We
read
can
those.
just point that there's 21.
Yeah. We also did secure quotes just for the conversation, but nothing really more of that, just to give us kind of a ballpark on what we might be able to expect. And then what we've done is broken down the time at each location, and determining what we feel is as close to what our cost is to do the mowing. So with all the locations, we're looking at 44 hours of actual mowing time. So this was in my summary update, kind of 2.0. We bumped that total time for 50 hours, which would include getting the equipment around, as 4 hours, and maintenance 2 hours, kind of on a per week basis. So to make this easier, we budgeted $422,237 under our Public Works labor in the general fund. We also budgeted to add an employee for Public Works starting June 1st. And so for discussion purposes, I took that total amount budgeted for the for the Public Works labor and this year and divided it by 4.5. So that roughly gets us $93,829 per employee. Dividing that by 2080, which is 40 hours times 52 weeks, it's an hourly rate of $45.11, which is a very conservative number. This is the average for the Public Works Department, including benefits. Estimated cost for Public Works time would be $2,255.50 per week, for a total of $63,154. Last year, we showed having parts and materials at just below 400, and fuel usage of $643, for a total of $1,043 for materials for service and repairs for the season. So total estimated costs for grounds maintenance for 2025, we're estimating at $64,197. And then as far as our list of equipment, this includes 3 zero-turn, 3 6-foot zero-turns, a 5-foot zero-turn, a 4-foot walk-behind, 4 weed whackers, and a handheld blower.
So just to kind of recap what you just said, back in the fall of 2024, when we were looking at the budget, there was a proposition put out there that maybe we could explore alternatives when it came to the Public Works and their obligations for the grass cutting throughout the township. The biggest assets the township has are the sewer treatment plant and the roads. And finding an alternative the thought process was that hopefully we could find to free up some time for Public Works from some of this burden, and so that some more maybe of the other pressing projects could be addressed. I was hoping that we would get that list of Public Works projects for 2025. I kind of went back and looked at the road survey for 2023, kind of by deduction. So there are some things out there. I do know that South Rhineford was looked at. So just for information purposes, presented this evening, that the quotes we have are not part of the discussion. They were just a yardstick for us to have something to go off of after we had all of this information compiled by Public Works and our manager. So if we do decide to move forward with this, there's some other aspects of this whole thing that we're going to discuss. We would put out an RFP. That's assuming that we want to move forward with that. That's where we're going to start with that. So first off, does anybody have any questions on the board here based on the info we have so far?
I have a bunch of questions. So the number of hours, I didn't write it down, but do we need to free up our road crew for all of those hours? Would a halftime grass cut contract be sufficient? So we don't really have enough information to know what we need to free up the road crew for. Do we need to free them up for all of that time, part of that time, 25% of that time? And the other comment I have is, in the past, when I was first on the board, we tried to get a seasonal worker, like a college kid or a high school grad who was looking for extra work to come in. And that's a very cost-effective way to have them come in just for the summer and do things like that that would actually be the most cost-effective way. So I'd like to explore that option as well. I know it's hard, but I think we should at least explore it.
I see what you're saying about the idea that they don't have to do all, just some. Well, we could split it out and leave the big stuff for the public works, and all the small kind of annoying places, we could contract that out. There's also the thought of, I mean, some of these parks don't actually get a full cut every single week. Colonial and Cuddy, the meadow area over there. So there is some reduction in time on some of these, but, and frequency. And there's the idea of maybe considering maybe renaturalizing some of these locations so that we don't have to mow them as frequently. Specifically, I was interested in maybe have a discussion about Foy Park and having that just go back to being naturalized as it should be, but that's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is Marla again. I'm just trying to understand. I think, again, I'm not there in person, but I think we have Tommy, I don't know if RJ's there as well. I'd like to understand from them, like, how many hours a week are they looking to free up? I think if we start from there, that'll help guide us into what we need to get additional help for. So we don't make an assumption that it's all or nothing. Maybe it's, like I said, maybe it's just a portion of that.
Did you want to come and speak to that, Tom? Marla wants to know if you.
We're just doing our.
Yeah, I don't think it was Public Works that made the suggestion.
Situation, you gotta realize, if you free up the time, we didn't apply for any of the equipment to do the work, so we don't have the equipment to do the job if we don't get the many.
I'm sorry, the Zoomers can't hear anything. Can he come to the microphone?
Is this on? Just press the button in the middle, it'll turn green. Okay, it was on. We're gonna have to buy equipment then, because if we're gonna be doing more road work, we need to buy the road equipment. The mini and that kind of stuff as well. So we gotta figure out from you guys which way you wanna go so we can put a plan together, actually.
Well, Tommy, while you're there, what do you guys want? Do you guys want help with the grass cutting? What do you all want to do?
The most efficient thing would be a full-time employee. This way we actually have enough to set up a legal work zone on the road. Because now we close the road and people just drive through anyway. So at least we could have somebody watching our back if we had a fourth guy. And this, but we close the road because this way we don't have to have flagging exactly. The road is closed. Because no matter what we do, we're going to have to plan a little harder for what we do. This gets us to the talking points.
Yeah, this is getting into a bigger discussion.
Yeah.
But I think something that's good that came from this, so during budget season, we know the dance every single year. I think this is the first time we're seeing total cost per labor broken out by saying, if we're going to do a job and we're going to send our crew to do it, there's an actual number to it. So I'm even thinking, didn't prepare for this, but if you're saying for 6 weeks a year, we need someone, a flag crew, if we can find a resource, whether subcontracting less than what we know is now a real number of every single hour on average of an employee, we should probably look into that too and budget for that. So we need that bigger project plan of this is what we need to accomplish this year.
Yeah.
This idea was every other year, it seems like we need a new mower. We need to haul it all over.
We trade the mowers every 10 years, and I kept the last two over
Yeah.
10.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to trade the 12 in this year and the 14 next year.
Right. So every year, not only do we have the labor, we also have the equipment, we have the maintenance, we have the trailer to pull it around. And the other thing to keep in mind is so keeping on target with tonight's discussion, trying to understand how long it would even take to bid it and how much it would cost to bid it, just to get an idea that we have a menu. And if you guys look at that and say, great, if you can get rid of 15 sites that we don't feel like doing, that frees us up for either all of the 50 or part of the 50. And we just need to keep one or two and maintain a couple mowers and a trailer and weed whacker, whatever it may be. And it's an actual discussion of what do we want to do, what do we want to, and if you look at it and say, if someone's willing to do all that for that price, let them go do all of that. You don't have to touch a mower all year. You keep one. So the park board wants you to mow for an event, we can help them out. So this is not an all or nothing. It's not a taking it away. It should be saying, I'm going to, you are now freed up to go do the things that you say we haven't done for the last 3 years. So I think it's a bigger discussion that's just forming again. Yeah,
We're just putting pieces together.
yeah.
It's going to,
So as far as the project lists, we have discussed, kind of what we're looking to do. So we can certainly put that together. I think why we didn't whip that together is we got to try to put some time frame on it, because I've tried to keep it, if we're looking to fix South Ryan for, what do we think time frame? Because I think that would be, to Terry's point, like part of that discussion of like, okay, is there a savings with being able to do, where we're not mowing, or, because I know we ran into the past year when they had culvert work and it's like, oh snap, we got to go mow. And like Alexander Drive was much more of a job than we had anticipated. And so it was definitely added to that kind of,
and we had a dry summer, so that helped us.
yeah, so that kind of was part of so I think we can certainly get that for you guys if we want to talk about this in March.
Question,
that-
once we mentioned that if there wasn't mowing to do, then you would jump to the roads and the mini X for the ditch, that's the ditch clearing.
Yeah.
And I think we also added that into our equipment bid this year. If you didn't have to do ditch clearing or mowing, is there enough work to keep 4 people busy for these 26 to 28 weeks of mowing season?
I would think so. I mean, we haven't.
Like if you look at a list.
We haven't rented a chipper and did any tree trimming because we haven't had time in years.
Right,
I used to run a bucket truck for 2 weeks. We haven't had the time for that.
right. Yeah, it is.
We can, it depends how much money we had to put towards the projects, depends on how we go and what we do.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of thought that's gonna have to be put to it to plan a direction.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we couldn't subcontract a lot of things and still add on to the head count. The money has to come from somewhere.
Right.
But if it's getting all of the projects done in that warm spell time of the year, and if you needed more head count to do flagging, whether it's through intermunicipal, arrangements or a crew that comes out, I see them every day on Little Road. I know they exist.
I get an updated quote every year from Flagler Force.
Yeah.
I think it's like, was it 1,500 a day? Do you remember what Flagler Force was last year? For some reason, I think it was like 1,000 or 1,500 a day for
Okay.
them.
Do we
I'd have to
still,
get an updated quote for this year anyway.
okay. Do we still work with any neighboring municipalities?
Yes.
Okay. But then we have to give back that labor.
Well,
Sure.
I mean, that's how I was planning on doing the paving on South River,
Yeah.
South Front.
Okay.
So if I'm hearing correctly, you really want us to like throw the kitchen sink at the potential things, as Tommy mentioned, would treat, things that we could do to occupy that time as part of the board's consideration on how we move. Am I hearing that correctly then?
That sounds about
Kinda-
right, including things that maybe you haven't had a chance to get to in years.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I think
All
we,
the things that kind of fell through the cracks, let's get back to it and kind of.
we've got most of the big projects talked about. We just got to put a time frame and equipment needs with that. But certainly now that we kind of know also, like stuff, tree trimming, whatever else that's, because I went right to the ditch cleaning, because I know that's an ongoing struggle on a year-to-year basis. So I think, yeah, that's not hard to pull together.
We could probably spend majority of summer just doing ditch work. That alone.
I mean, it's obvious it's a dynamic situation, right? And, you know, the number I'm looking at, that you wrote down here, we got the mowing, public works time is 28 weeks of 50 hours a week. So that's more than one person for over half a year just doing, cutting lawn. And if there's other things that our road crew can do, that's more of a benefit. I mean, my personal thing, cutting lawn, it looks nice, but it's not solving problems. You're trying to maybe ward off a problem by letting something become overgrown, and whether everything has to be done, you know, once a week or whatever, that's debatable, but it depends upon the year. And, you know, things like Floyd Park, I know the park board has a plan to renaturalize, so, you know, that, hopefully we're not looking at mowing that whole thing. And, you know, I think we need to look at the whole
Initial plan
thing.
is just to brush hog the center once a year, same as we brush hog
Yeah.
Colonial Park all the, once a year.
I think the other part too is we're getting out ahead of what, you know we're getting more open space coming. We don't know what, as far as with the Arcadia Estate and then the trail, we don't know what that work will be, and granted, it's years yet, potentially, you know, so.
Well, I mean, anything within those developments is gonna be homeowners.
I thought
But you have a trail that runs from Coble over to what
Yeah.
will be Farmview, but, and we're not looking to mow those fields. That was just to mow along that paved trail, a strip on either side, so it's not, was never in anybody's mind to mow that whole thing.
No, the trail up, that's what, I know that's what we'd be maintaining.
Right.
I understand that.
Do you have any other questions, comments, Marla?
Yeah, just to summarize, so we're going to get, so this, again, I agree with Terry, this is a moving target, so to speak. That is, maybe this year they would do tree cutting, but maybe next year they wouldn't need to do the tree cutting. Maybe I wouldn't be an every year thing. So every year might be different, right? I mean, one year we might need 20 weeks for them to do other work. Another year they might only need 10. So it sounds like we have to hear from the road crew what their needs are and how we can help them meet them.
I think getting the list of the jobs together as you discussed, and then sitting down with you guys and going through the grass cutting and go, okay, what can we take off your list that's going to open up time for you to go and do this other stuff? And this is never considered a permanent thing. This was let's try something different. That's what this was. Yeah.
The last two times we went down this road, we went with getting the employee. So whatever, let's just go through and
We'll look
figure
at the
everything
whole,
out.
we'll
and
look
make
at the whole gamut. Yeah,
This way we know where we're going, and we have a good plan for the next 5 or so years.
that sounds like a plan. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question about how we might implement things going forward? I mean, obviously, you're gonna have to have a staff meeting with Jason, right, to put together this plan. My recommendation, if there's anybody on the board, we can't have a majority, obviously, but if there's anybody on the board who wants to be present at those meetings, that they be invited. And that way, at least, we have people in this group who have been there and hearing the discussions. If, I'm not gonna volunteer anybody, but, you know, that would be my recommendation. That way, you know, you hear firsthand what Tommy's saying, it's not having to be transmitted through Jason. I think that would help us in the process.
I'm happy to volunteer. This is Marla.
And so will I. Yeah.
No, I
Well, we
agree.
don't need two of us. You go ahead. Well,
What was that, Marla?
We don't need two of us in a meeting. If you want to do it, go for it. I
Okay,
just thought since I'm free during the day, it would make it simpler.
that's true. I do have free time in the morning, so we could get something together, get the plan, get the points together, and then we'll sit down and figure this out. Okay?
So would we still, with spring coming, hopefully, soon?
Yes.
Is this something that these 21, we're still, after even seeing the quotes, these are still the 21, and anything you'd want to change if we were to put this out to people to bid on? I don't know how the bidding process works. I'm just
Yeah,
asking the question of how do we go forward?
Yeah, we'd have to sit down and kind of dot the i's, cross the- I'm not sure how that would go either. 'Cause in the
Yeah.
past, I've just chased quotes for information.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to want to spell out exactly what our expectation is so that
Specific
we're
criteria.
getting even, the bids are apples to apples.
Yeah, because you
And
don't
the
want to be
expect-
giving a tour to everyone that wants to bid on it, of every park.
No, we would do like if they want to do it, this is the day they come do it, and, we'll take them around kind of thing. That's kind of how we do other project, like pre-bid, it's almost like a pre-bid meeting. So I would assume because of the nature of this, it would be kind of that same thing. We'll schedule a day, and whoever wants to come to that pre-bid meeting, we'll basically have a nice ride-along and do that.
And thank you,
Oh,
Tom,
and-
for getting all the bids, and Jason for kind of going through and making the numbers make sense.
And this is Marla, and we're gonna have to figure out how to pay for this, because it's not in the budget. So I just want to throw that out there that we haven't budgeted for this.
So just for my information, since Colby is here, it was mentioned earlier about just hiring somebody over the summer, like maybe a student or something. I mean, obviously, we would have to cover them under our insurance plan and get approval that they could operate the equipment and all those things, right? So it's not like we're just going to hire the next door neighbor kid.
You would go through the same,
Right.
things that you go with hiring any employees. That's up to you, but it would be in accordance with your employee handbook and who you hire. Obviously, it all depends on what they're doing. If they're just riding the mowers, or are they driving the truck to the place to do it? I mean, if somebody else is dropping them off in the morning at whatever park and then picking that up and transporting them to another park, that's one thing if they're never driving the vehicles. But that's going to have to be looked at.
Yeah, it's my understanding, like the insurance company knows who Public Works is, and those are the people. I couldn't jump on that mower and use it because I'm not officially a Public Works people, so that probably
Probably
be a good
not. What
thing.
I would tell you is you'd have to talk to your insurance to see if you could actually do that.
I'm pretty sure I couldn't.
Right.
We'll sign you up. Thank you for volunteering, Chuck.
You want to volunteer me? Oh, okay. Okay, so if we don't have any further discussion on that, we have a path forward. Let's move on to our next item is Public Works request repair quote for a 2001 International dump truck.
All right, since I knew RJ and Tommy would be here, I added this to our agenda. So this is, what's in front of you is a quote for a tarp and assembly replacement. There's the quote. Here are the pictures. So that's the tarp itself. And if I understand correctly, anytime there's a load in that truck, we're supposed to have a tarp? Okay. So whether that's salt, whether that's material, whatever's in, okay. So that's the tarp itself. Here's one side of the assembly. Driver's side, obviously. And then here's the other side of the assembly, just kind of for a visual. And this is on the 2001 International, so this assembly's been there. I guess it's been on this truck since we bought it. Pretty much, okay.
How long do they usually last, Tommy? Does it matter on the material? That's pretty good.
I'm sorry, we can't hear Tommy if he's not at the microphone.
That one's 10 years old, and the one before that, the tarp itself lasted 10 years. We took it over to get a quote, and that's when they suggested we replace all that, the mechanism.
It obviously looks like it needs to be
Yeah.
replaced.
Well, you got what, steel and aluminum, that's not good.
Well,
I could tell you that.
We got 20-plus years out of it
Yep,
on a salt truck.
yep.
And you need to have that. You can't haul around without it.
What's that?
You can't not have it if you
No.
have something. Yeah, I understand that.
You're not let out of the quarry without a tarp.
Okay. And this one's automatic.
It's, yeah,
You push a button and it, gotcha, okay. Is this quote still good? It's from,
I think so, yeah.
that's still gonna be good.
That's just over
Triad's
on
usually
Ridge
pretty
Pike.
good about holding that
Yeah,
stuff.
I know, I pass it every
Yeah, same here.
4 times, back and forth.
So if you guys move forward, I guess we'll find out when we send it. If not, then I'll put it on next week's agenda.
I'm saying that again, I'm sorry.
If the board moves forward and we send the quote in and they say, we're not accepting this because of the date, then, and it's more, we'll put it on next week's agenda.
I think that might be a good idea. Does anybody have any questions on this? Terry, you have anything to throw in there? Oh.
I mean, how much do you guys use this truck? I know during for plowing, right?
Plowing, we used that to haul most of the stone in for the cross pipe job on Alexander last year.
Okay.
And we hauled the waste out with the bigger truck. Because when I got it done at the plant, I would drive that for the guys to do the job.
So what, looks like this quote came in November 21st of last year, so you'll have it refreshed, is that it?
Yeah.
I'll send, if the board moves forward, I'll send what we have. And if they kick it back, then it'll be on next week's agenda, because I assume they'll kick it back if the price changes.
I can call and clarify on it tomorrow.
Is there a time sensitivity to this? I mean, it's still winter. Can we go ahead and vote on this contingent on the price, the quote, not changing? And that would save us having to redo it next week?
I don't see any harm in doing it next week. It's gonna be 60 degrees tomorrow. I don't think we're getting any snow, so if you could refresh that and we can just put it on the agenda. Yeah.
I'm fine with that approach, yeah.
Jason, do you see anybody with any questions on Zoom?
No?
Okay. So up next is the Park and Rec request, modification plan for Village Center Park. Do we have anyone here to speak to that?
Katie is here?
I can if you need to.
There she is, okay. Katie's here too.
Kim knows a lot of it. I think Jason spoke to her about it.
You can jump in if need be.
Okay, I can do the intro on this. This is just a recommendation. We put this park, these flower beds in Village Center Park for a beautification project in 2019. And initially we were able to maintain them. At this point, there's really a twofold problem that's kind of triggering this proposal. One, the main bed, which is the one there that you see with the sign, it's its current condition right now. It's simply too large to maintain. When we first installed it, we had held several weeding events, and as the bed has matured, it's become a much larger job. We have a lot of invasive mulberry, bittersweet, mare's tail, you name it in there. And we now have a heavy seed bank of weed seeds in there as well that would, at this point, require a widespread use of pre-emergence or pesticides, which we want to avoid. And it's pretty backbreaking work. Last year, I basically weeded it out and cut it down in the spring. But at this point, relying on volunteers to maintain it is not a realistic expectation for us. The second thing is the actual design of the bed is not ideal. When it was installed, we wanted some good pop. There's a lot of cut leaf coneflower Maximus hybrid in there. It's a very tall flower, very full, makes a beautiful yellow display, but it's really set on the outside perimeters of all the beds. And that effectively blocks the view of any plants in the interior that were planted. There's a lot of stuff that was planted in there, interesting mix of perennials. And it's also shaded and sun-starved these interior plantings to the point where they've died back and have been outcompeted with the weeds. So that is why this recommendation is coming to you now to basically cut this bed down, cut it back, make it a more manageable size from where it is, kind of take it back to that. We have a very nice split rail fence back there that you can barely see behind it. Take it back to that and just have a strip or individual beds along that fence line. And instead of having a full bed of perennials, put in some high value pollinator shrubs, native shrubs along that fence line, and some good ground cover plants, something like Pacara or something. I've made some suggestions of possible plants we could use. That's up for debate, but the overall feeling is, from the park board is, it's a maintenance issue. It's not something that, volunteers we can maintain, and we certainly don't have the manpower on Public Works to be weeding out flower beds. We still have the upper bed, which is smaller, and it's fairly easy to weed and maintain. And so I think this is the really the big bed that we need to address. And I made some recommendations on certain plants that we could use in there. There is some existing red twig dogwood in there. There's also some, we've got some winterberry in there that I've been trying to maintain. We should be able to keep those along the fence line there. But we need to open it up for them and see if they respond well, but they're already well rooted and still viable, I think, along that fence line. So I just wanted to bring this to attention that the park board agreed that we should do something, and wanted to bring this in front of the board for consideration as something that we could do to make it more manageable, make it more aesthetically pleasing for certain. Shrubs are much easier to maintain than all the perennials and flower beds, especially for a bed this size. And I think it does a nicer presentation for our Village Center Park there on the roadway as well.
So Pam, this is Noel. Did you plan on using Public Works to help you with this, like kind of getting this to scale back?
Yeah, the initial plan was to use them. There's some plants in there. If we've got cut leaf, we can move some of those to the rain garden in Cuddy. We could move some of those up to some of the other beds here in Village Center Park. There's also some little bit of indigo that's still struggling along in there that we could move ahead of time. But yeah, the majority of it would be a dig job, anticipating using Public Works for that, yes. Basically to scrape it down. The mulberry's got some deep roots. I've been chainsawing that off.
Yeah,
But yeah, Public Works to get it back, and then we could do a planting exercise, planting event.
so you want to save some of the stuff that's already in the bed and reduce back the size.
The majority of what you see in there is the cut leaf coneflower all around the perimeter. Those tall stems you see is almost all cut leaf, and like I said, there are at least 2 winterberry bushes in there, and there's 1 red twig that I think we can save. And then we just need to fill in along there, and depending on how you wanted to plant, we could do like, a nice measured planting along that fence line. I think would look nice. And then some ground cover. There's some nice ground cover plants that are also pollinator plants, early pollinator plants. The Paccara aurea does a really nice job in that area. There's some really nice phlox that will do well in there that also add pollinator value as well, but are low maintenance, and shrubs can be easily maintained. I'd be happy to train the guys on pruning, but they're much easier to maintain.
So for the initial scaling back, I mean, have you thought about just kind of going in there and mowing it down?
Well, we did cut it down last. Well, I wait till we left the stems stand because they do feed the birds, and they do a lot of the native bees are stay in the stems over the winter. So until we get to like 50 degrees air temperature, we let the stems stand. But we did cut it down last year. We could do that again, just to get it all down to ground level. But those cut leaves are gonna take off as soon as they get sun again.
So I guess my thought, I can only go off of experience at my own place, I suppose, is to mow it down and
We
till
could mow it and keep mowing it.
yeah, I mean, you could do that, and that would probably save having to do a whole lot of extra there.
We could try to keep overseeding it to try to compete. If we keep it mowed down and try to overseed it, try to get some fescue in there started, or clover.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I was actually thinking maybe even a sedge, like a Pennsylvania sedge.
Yeah, sedge will go in there nicely, although you don't want to be mowing that.
I was thinking like along the front of the bed, where it meets up with the grass that's there now, but can get mowed in the fall. But I don't know.
I mean, we could just cut it down and mow it down and keep it mowed down. That certainly neatens it up, and it's quick and easy.
And then just kind of address the
As long as we've got the seed bank there, we've got a lot of mare's tail. There's a lot of vetch in there. We've got bittersweet. There's, the mulberry needs to be dug out. I just chainsaw it off every year, but there's like 3 invasive mulberries in there.
How big are they? Do you know how big they are? You said
About an inch.
about an inch now.
Yeah, about an inch. They're nice and healthy.
Yeah.
With nice, fantastic roots, as they're prone to do. So.
Okay.
But we could mow it down. I mean, it's a little dicey getting around that. We could open it up just around those, the red twig and the winterberries that are there. It's not going to be much of a show because it's only like 3 plants, and the winterberries need to have some sun and have a chance to recover. But we could do that. It's going to have to be weed whacked in between the bushes and stuff. But that's an option, certainly.
Question for Pam or Kate? All right. I didn't want to interrupt. You guys had a
Good.
dialogue.
No.
Either Pam or Katie or Jason, have you, it indicated that you would need some help from Public Works to do the plan. Has that been discussed with them, and do you have an idea of how much time that would require?
No, I gave this proposal to Jason just as, you know, thinking through it, what would be an approach to making a more, viable option for us as for a maintenance issue for the township and a nicer face to that park, but
Okay.
nothing's been costed out. I mean, we'd probably be looking at maybe 6 to 8 shrubs. Current pricing for like a nice 2 to 3 gallon size from Octorara would be about $60 a pop. I can get them a little bit cheaper from Master Gardeners certain times of the year.
Well, in Jason's memo to us, he did point out we do have funds available in 2 separate places in the budget for these types of things, so.
Right. We do have park maintenance dollars. I think this would be, working with the guys, we could get this done pretty quick. I think it's mostly scraping. Open it up to anybody who wants to dig plants out of there ahead of time. If they want some cut, coneflower or something, get those out of there. And anything we feel we could save and move. And I'll be happy to do that. But then it's just really, most of it is fairly shallow scraping because nothing's really deep until you get down to the lower end there toward the post office. That's where the mulberry and the bittersweet is in there pretty good.
And this is something that you want to get done, obviously, before the weather gets warm, right? So, yep, okay.
Just a proposal. I mean, I just thinking about it and looking at it, and our job is to look at the parks and make recommendations for things, and this kind of comes under the heading of best intentions, but not the best of ideas. And maintenance is an issue for us, and we're just trying to keep everything we're doing when we're looking at the park projects now. We're looking at minimizing the amount of maintenance. The materials we're picking are the fake wood stuff that holds up, powder coated things that hold up, not making work projects for ourselves going forward. And this is a big one that I think needs to be looked at.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I recognize that there are a lot of people who keep these parks looking nice, and they're not always recognized, and they go out there on their own time. And that's a big job.
It's a lot of work.
So I would like to, I feel that we should follow the direction here that the park board has put forward. I support it. And I'm not exactly sure what the next steps are, but.
I think probably getting some timing with Tommy on what it would take, looking at it, what it would take to cut it down, what kind of equipment he needs in his time from his guys. And we'd have to decide, as a group, what kind of bed. I kind of suggested a line along the fence line there, just with some shrubs and ground covers in it. We could make individual little beds along the fence line to even minimize that. From a standpoint of Tommy's guys, then or whoever's doing the mowing at this point, that takes more trimming and, care and mowing. So that's an aspect to take into account as well. A straight line bed might be better than having to go in between bushes and trimming it down. That's certainly want their input on that because they have to maintain it ongoing.
Any other questions? Some comments? Is there anyone on Facebook? Katie, do you have anything to add? I do not. You do not? Okay, thank you. All right, well, Tommy, you can hook up with Pam and have a conversation about that? Okay, thank you.
Is this something you guys think you're going to want to see again, or?
Tommy and I can look at it and come back with maybe get his input on what they'd like to see as far as their maintenance side of it. And then I could, we could maybe scope it a little better for you.
I can get together with you too, Pam, if you want.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I need to see it again unless there's some very.
Well, that's why I was,
very different
that's only,
happens.
that's why I was asking, and that's why I
I'm-
recommend, like, if there's a,
Yeah.
board has a
I'm-
consensus, we can,
I think at this point it can just go and get done.
And
We
I'm
can just do it.
sure that whatever gets decided, that somebody from the park board will include it in
The reports.
their report. Yep.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Chuck. That's a great idea. I mean, we don't need to micromanage the park board. You guys can work it out with the road crew, and if we have the money in the budget, then go forth. That's my opinion.
Next on our agenda this evening is the police request, vehicle purchase with the DCED grant discussion.
So on February 6th, the township was awarded a DC grant in the amount of $60,245. This grant was. How's that? A little better? So the township has received this $60,245 grant effective February 6th. This grant is designed for the purchase of a police vehicle as well as associated equipment. The quote that you guys were initially provided was for $58,521. However, that quote has been modified for the new vehicle of $50,521. The modification would be my recommendation that I spoke to Jason about trading in two of our oldest vehicles, the 2015 Ford Taurus sedan that has 100,000 miles and the 2013 Chevy Tahoe that has 74,000 miles. Both of these vehicles are doing the trade-in through the dealership, which is Koch 33, where we purchased the prior two vehicles. They're giving us $4,000 a piece for each vehicle. This is going to save the township, I believe, some money with the additional insurance, gas for those vehicles. Excuse me. With that, so with the $50,000, and we had $10,000 left over of the grant. That grant, the remaining money is going to be used for a new laptop computer in the car, vehicle lettering, and hopefully a new ballistic shield that'll be stored in the trunk. Ballistic shields are, it's a large shield for active shooter or other situations that it's an officer safety device, life-saving device. If the board approves this vehicle, just a few points so everyone is aware. 75% of the police patrol vehicle fleet will have under 10,000 road miles. 75% of the fleet will have full warranties up to 36,000 miles, and 75% of the patrol fleet will have the fuel-efficient EcoBoost engines. I know there was some concern prior about looking at going electric, and we've had previous discussions about that. So the EcoBoost engines, I think, is a good middle ground where it's not creating an undue amount of gas that the township has to pay for. It's a little bit more fuel efficient. And I would just ask that, I spoke to the dealership actually today, the sales guy. There is a vehicle on the ground. Once they've received a signed copy of the contract, he's telling me 60 days from the reception of, or the receiving the signed contract to delivery. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you and Jason for the work you put into this. Very well thought out. I appreciate all the detail that went into this and the pluses that come along with it. So congratulations on your grant. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Yeah, just a quick question. So the grant, 60,000, right? 60,245, and out the door price on the vehicle with all of the lights and everything is 58,521.
That was the initial quote.
Okay.
But with the trade-in to, it's saving the money where we don't have to worry about having additional cars sitting here, it drops it down to 50,521.
Yeah, I'm just asking, I want to make sure that the grant, the 60,000, if there's left over at the dealership, we don't lose that 10,000. We get
So
it.
that 60,245 is the full grant. With the purchase of the vehicle and the additional equipment, every single dollar will be spent
Okay.
on that grant money,
Good.
which will be no cost to the township whatsoever.
Yeah, okay. Again, just didn't want to leave any money sitting anywhere.
Absolutely not.
Good.
And just as another side note, those trading prices, basically police cars on the secondary market, especially understanding the wear and tear, that's why it's usually a 5-year shelf life. That's outstanding. Like we'd be hard pressed to get that for either one of those vehicles. It would be just a timing thing. So just to keep in mind also, considering the trade-in value that Chiefs presented.
So I'm guessing you'd like to get this car sooner than later?
I would love for the board to approve this and get a signature and get it forward first thing tomorrow morning, and get this process moving.
Okay.
And just for the, excuse me, it'll be identical to the other SUV. I mean, it's the exact same. It'll be the same lettering, same light package, same everything. And
Okay.
it's literally the big brother.
Okay. All right, well, if that's the case, the motion is to authorize the purchase of a 2025 police vehicle from Koch 33 in the amount of $50,521 with the trade-ins of the 2015 Ford Taurus, the 2013 Chevy Tahoe, and further, authorize the purchase of associated police vehicle equipment not to exceed an amount of $9724 or $10,000. I also authorize the township manager to sign any paperwork to complete the purchase. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Terry, Supervisor Sachs makes the motion. Can I get a second?
Chuck Yiser will second.
And Supervisor Yiser makes the second. All of those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Get that check in there first thing in the morning.
Absolutely.
And just so the boards, we are expecting that monies, it was supposed to be received within 30 days, so we should be receiving that.
Someone will come in time to.
If it's 60 days, yes, because we won't have to pay for it until we receive the vehicle. But we're expecting that money within this week or next, or actually the first week of March, based on when I submitted the paperwork. There's supposed to be a 30-day turnaround on the funds.
Okay, thank you.
And just for clarification, the audience, I kind of made a joke about get the check in. So we did, how many ever years ago that was, we decided to buy something and the next morning it was gone before we got the order in, and we didn't have that vehicle for a long time. So that was the inside joke.
Next on our agenda this evening is letter to the county regarding available funds for the Delphi to Schwenksvide Trail Connection Area discussion.
Okay.
Do you want me to speak to this one since I asked to be on the agenda, or you do it? It's fine. So, as some of you know, from planning commission meetings and public comment, and the not too distant past, we've had groups who have been working for some time to try to figure out how we can connect Schwenksville and Lower Frederick via what has been designated a few years ago as a Sunrise Trail, or a portion thereof. Through many months, it has become clear that because it used to be a railroad and there were different owners, and then there were railroad ownerships or easements, and then now that the railroad isn't there, it reverts back to perhaps other owners. There are some things to be figured out in terms of who owns what. And the county currently has a budget of several $100,000 toward the Sunrise Trail, and a fair amount of that is earmarked towards things that are happening, I believe, out in the New Hanover area. But there is, I don't want to say some unallocated, but some non-earmarked funds for the Sunrise Trail. And I think that it would be in our best interest, and hopefully Schwenksville follows suit, to say to the county, hey, look, you've got funds, you know you need to do some work here figuring out property lines and ownerships. PennDOT is really one of the people they need to speak with. To allocate some of those funds, and there will be some legal work involved, toward resolving these things, because this is a long process. We have owners of properties that are willing to work to make this a reality someday, but we can't expect that they're going to be there all the time and be in the same willing position. And so, you know, this all may not become a reality for a very long time. I don't know. But I think these are the types of things that are valuable for a community, and one needs to chip away at them whenever you can. And so my feeling is that I think as a minimum, this board should write a letter to the county pointing out that we value this as a future connection and that we would like them to use some of the funding that's not allocated or not directed in that case toward you know, resolving some of these boundary issues and ownership issues along the section of the old rail bed between Schwenksville and Lower Frederick.
Okay, thank you for that, Chuck. Does anyone have any questions, any comments?
This is Marla. We have another regional planning meeting coming up in a couple weeks, and if it would help, we could bring this up and write a letter of support if that would be of any help. But I think we should absolutely, at a minimum, get, you know, maybe Schwenksville, maybe do a joint letter with Schwenksville, have them do their own letter. So I think a united force is going to have more strength.
So you think a joint letter might be a better idea than just one from us?
I don't know, a joint letter or two letters. I just feel like this is benefiting more than one municipality. So I think the county often looks upon that more favorably.
Yeah, I thank you for pointing that out, Marla.
Yeah.
That has been what that regional group has done in the past. And yes, it brings the score up, if you want to look at it that way, in terms of how they consider it.
So I see, Jason, you have something already composed. Is this something you can reach out to Schwenksville, see if they might want to sign on together with this letter?
Yeah, we can. I know the previous correspondence, we kind of each did our own letter, but certainly.
Well, if they want to do their own, that's fine.
But
see if they're gonna
I'll
do
let
it.
them know what the board's thinking, if that's what you guys want to direct me to do as far as moving forward. And
It'd be a good idea.
Their manager is very, as you know, new. So I think, yeah, if that
Yeah,
helps the process.
yeah, we've been looking to meet, and he reached out to me for another item. So
Even if you provided him your letter, you know, kind of, okay.
So I guess, are we going to table this for a future meeting kind of thing? Or I don't know if you wanted to go through the draft that I provided, or if you're, you know, as far as the wording.
I read through it. I didn't have a problem with it unless somebody else wants to make any recommendations on changes or
was
it speaks straight to the point.
I was trying to hit what I thought we were aiming for, so.
So maybe this week you could reach out to Schwenksville, okay? And I guess Marla, would getting this out sooner than later help for the next meeting, or?
Well, what you could do is you could send a copy to Eric Jarrell, who is the county person who leads the group. And our next meeting is on the 17th of March. So we could just get it on the agenda, and if there's approval, then we'll just send out a letter in support to the county.
So you're saying to get the letter to Eric Jarrell?
Jarrell, yeah, I think, yeah, Jason, I think you're on that list. You have his, and if you don't, I can give it to you, but.
No, I'm on the regional planning list.
Yeah, I mean, once our letter's approved and goes out, that would be my recommendation. Just send them a copy and ask if their regional planning commission would consider a letter of support.
Okay. Do we want to wait until the next meeting? I think we could take care of this now. It's pretty.
That was my
Okay.
impression, so.
Okay, so the motion before us this evening, if there's no more questions or comments, the motion this evening is to authorize the township manager to send the draft letter to Montgomery County, let's amend this here. Authorize the township manager to, yes, send the letter to Montgomery County Planning Commission, specifically Eric Jarrell.
No, we're
No.
saying this.
I know.
this is
No,
a
no.
draft.
Yeah, it's going to be Scott France.
Scott France,
Yeah,
gotcha.
no. Eric is regional planning. He's, yeah.
Okay, so authorize township manager to send the draft letter to Montgomery County Planning Commission requesting consideration of additional funding allocation for Sunrise Trail land ownership issues in the area between Schwenksville Borough and Lower Frederick Township. Can I get a motion?
Sure, Chuck Yeisel will make that motion.
Supervisor Yiser makes the motion. Can I get a second? I'll second. And Supervisor Byrd makes the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
You'll CC our planner on this too, right?
Yes.
Okay, finally this evening, the last item on our agenda is the fiscal year 2024 financial review presentation.
This is the end, so I'm just going to do this from the beginning. What am I doing here, Chuck? That doesn't, I'm sorry.
Name for the view?
Yeah, so it doesn't, so it still acts.
Oh, under reading mode, so under. That thing is coming up under the view menu, I think it is. Reading mode.
Right here, reading view?
Yeah, reading view.
Okay, good.
And then just get rid of that participants thing. I see it, but you may not see it. What it is along that side there.
Yeah, that's,
That's all right.
actually, I don't, oh, you know what? That's my screen.
Oh, what we're seeing?
Yeah, because I shared, this is like the master.
Okay. Perfect.
Thanks, Chuck. Okay, so this is the 2024 fiscal year review. This was tabled at the last meeting because we were having technical difficulties. So I will go through this quick because actually most of the numbers the board received at my first treasurer's report. All right, how do I? Okay. All right, all funds, so the fund balance net income, fund balance including the CDs, $4.849 million. And our net income overall, $144,882. Fund balance breakdown. The general operating funds, which is our general and sewer funds. This also includes the fire hydrant fund. Fund balance was $2.879 million. And a net income for both funds combined at $135,981. The special revenue funds, this is our liquid fuels and ARPA. Fund balance $628,000 with a net income of negative $283,479. The capital project funds, which is our CIP and open space, fund balance was $793,448 with a net income of $292,380. And the fiduciary fund, which would be the general fund developer and the sewer fund onsite escrows, we ended the year with a fund balance of $548,468. So as far as the general fund revenue summary, total $2.569 million for the year, $156,921 or 6.5% more than we planned for. So it was a good year revenue-wise. Highlights, highs, real estate transfer, earned income tax, franchise fees, interest from banks and CDs, state police and magistrate fines, transfer from the ARPA fund. That was for interest earned over the 2 years or the life of the ARPA fund. Lowe's, real estate, charges for service, special assessment, the fire hydrant. Sorry. So this was pretty much what was being reported on a monthly basis, so I don't think there's surprises in here. This is just the revenue breakdown pie chart. And as you can see, as every year, the bulk of our revenue is coming from earned income tax and real estate taxes. And we did have another good year in real estate transfer, so that was helpful. As far as expense summary, total $2.618 million. This was $233,470 or 7.9% less than we planned for. So we were well below our expense budget. Expense highlights, we were over in zoning code enforcement consultant, zoning planning other services and charges, repair and maintenance for the public works vehicles, transfer to the capital reserve, under insurance, health for all the departments, permit property management software, which we did not move forward with last year, wages as far as police and public works, and public works, roads, bridges, contractors, and materials. This is the expense breakdown pie chart. Once again, combining labor and O&M admins kind of in third place, 16%. You have public works at 20%, and then police at 37%. General fund balance net income. Fund balance including CDs, $2.229 million, and a net income of negative $49,712. Any questions so far? Okay, revenue summary for the sewer fund. Total $1.614 million, or $393,000, or 32.2% more than we planned for. So and as the board recalls, that was primarily the tapping fees we got for Farmview. Revenue highlights, highs, sewer rental, sewer use charge, interest from banking, the sewer connection tap-in fees, lows, nothing. This is another breakdown. Primarily in a normal year, the bulk of the revenue is going to be your sewer rental, sewer use charge. But obviously with the influx of the tapping fees between the Fulmer Road extension and the Farmview, that skewed this for 2024. Expense summary, totals $1.428 million. It was $106,872 or 8.1% more than we planned for, so we did go over budget. Expense highlights, we were over supplies and chemicals, sludge hauling, repair and maintenance for the pump station. Although that was a little skewed because that was a finish up of a FEMA project that we were paid for a few years ago. The Fulmer Riverside extension completion. Refund from a prior year revenue. That was as part of our dormant EDU policy. Oh, sludge hauling twice. Not trying to overemphasize that. Under repairs and maintenance, sewer plant, sewer line, and manhole. That was primarily one of the things we didn't, because we weren't able to start the I&I project last year. Sewer line televised, it's got its own line item. This is the expense breakdown. As the board knows, almost half of our expense generally is the debt service to repay back the loan for the sewer plant and the sewer extension. And then the other is operation and maintenance costs. All right, the sewer fund balance net income. Fund balance ended at $630,928 with a net income of $185,693. Some projects, capital highlights, admin, we did the codification update of 2022, 2023 ordinances. We did our Office 365 upgrade and server migration to the cloud. New treasurer computer for the township building. Police department renovation, which I say nearly is completed, is now completed. The admin front door assembly was replaced. ARPA. Sewer, the former Riverside Road sewer extension project was completed in the beginning of the year. The sewer plant flood barrier project was completed. That was part of our FEMA mitigation projects. Delphi pump station generator replacement was completed as part of the Hurricane Ida FEMA mitigation. Projects, police, public works, and roads. Release, hiring of Officer NARC. The receipt of the 2023 Ford Interceptor SUV. The receipt of the 2023 F-150 police responder. As Chuck said, we were supposed to get at least one of those in 2023. Public Works, I got a computer. They received a 2023 F-350 truck and plow. Road, the Meadow Lane and Alexander Drive culvert replacements were completed. We did an oil and chip project of 4.94 miles of road, and the stormwater project at Zieglerville Road swale and inlet project was completed between 13 and 15 Zieglerville. And base repair was done on Main Street and Spring Mount Road. Projects capital for open space and community development. Open space, the Barber property, Highlands Conservation Grant was started. The Liban property, County Ag Preservation, is to be complete in 2025, which I can say we are sending that check out, so that should be happening in the next month. The county was waiting for them to receive their state funds. Forest community, the Spring Mount Road sidewalk project was started last year with the expected completion date of hopefully by May 1st. Park and recreation. Oh, we didn't get anything. Maybe we didn't. Okay. Capital reserve, liquid fuels, sewer capital fund balances, and net income. The capital reserve fund balance $264,000, net income of $161,000. Liquid fuels fund balance of $486,552 with a net income of negative $47,150. And then the sewer capital, with that has fund balance $153,465 with a net income of $17,997. And I do, as a reminder to the board, I do need to do those transfers from the 50% tap-in fees that was not done last year. So that balance will grow once we get a little deeper into the year. This is just the remaining fund balance of the open space is $275,000, which is minus the allocations for the ag property and the Barber property. The hydrant fund end of the year at $18,746. Our developer escrow $499,078. The ARPA fund $141,590, and the on-site sewer escrow $49,390. And that open space allocation is $100,100 for this year, budget for this year. Budget 2024 conclusions. I think we're showing our revenue strength. Higher than expected tax revenue contributed to a strong financial position. This was driven primarily by earned income tax and real estate transfer tax. Expense control, key expenses remained under budget, which I think ensuring some of our financial efficiency. General fund stability, we have a strong net income and cash reserves provide a solid foundation and puts the township in a strong financial position. Sewer fund growth, the sewer tap-in fees and connection charges boosted our revenue, supporting future infrastructure. Capital investment opportunity, controlled spending allows room to ensure long-term infrastructure sustainability. So that's basically our CIP plans. ARPA funds, a plan was created for the allocation of the remaining COVID relief funds to leave no money on the table. And then infrastructure planning, I think with our open space and liquid fuel funds, which could be better utilized for future project. So overall, the township is maintaining a healthy financial position, strong revenue performance, and responsible expense management ensuring sustainability and future growth. Any questions? That's all I have.
Do we have any questions on Zoom? Anybody in the audience?
This is Marla, not a question. I just want to really thank Jason for doing that. It's a great summary and it's a really useful presentation. So thanks for putting that together.
Okay, do we have any public comment? Dan?
Okay, this is a quick question to,
Could you say your name? And
oh yeah, Dan Wharf. I forgot. I'm sorry. Dan Wharf, Kratz Road. I was interested when that the chief mentioned the fact that they're buying a police protection shield that goes kind of in the trunk. Do we have those? Just, it sounds like a very good thing to have, given the state of affairs in our world. Do the other cars have those, and is that something we should be maybe budgeting for if they don't? That's just,
The other cars do have them,
oh, that's good.
but I'm working on other grants to replace them because those shields are like bulletproof vests.
Right.
There's a shelf life on them. So to get one through the grant for the new car and then working on other grants, hopefully to replace the rest of them.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Phil, did you have a comment?
Phil Smith, 205 Girl Off Road. It's basically, I'm looking to provide you with an awareness of a situation up on the Stonehill Greenway. Of course, we know that we've been, confronted with high wind events in the recent past, and we also have a condition in the forest of Pennsylvania where our impacts of the, the emerald ash borer and various other conditions have set up the death of a lot of the trees. So, of course, we have a great deal of land holdings up there, and it's done in conjunction with Limerick Township as well as Nat Lands. Nat Lands does their own trail maintenance, but Lower Frederick and Limerick have relied on volunteers to do the work up there. But presently, there's a tree that's along the Yellow Trail on the Lower Frederick property. I've taken a picture of that. See what I'm talking about. And that tree is in such a condition and such a precarious position that I believe that it would pose a significant hazard to people using the Yellow Trail, which incidentally is one of our more popular trails up there. And I think it needs to be addressed by a professional arborist or a tree surgeon. In the past, we've relied on some of our good friends like Warren Jacobs to contribute volunteer efforts to do that kind of work, but presently I don't think we have an available arborist that would do that pro bono. So that said, I think that the board needs to take some consideration and perhaps have a look at that by somebody and make a determination as to how it needs to be addressed. I mean, of course, you could probably just leave it alone, and if it fell and nobody got hurt, it was just an act of God, and so be it. But I think it's enough of an issue from my personal perspective that it needs to be looked at with a seriousness by the township.
Is it within a perimeter? Yeah, I can see the trail marker over here.
Yeah, it's within striking distance. You can see that it's splintered and hung up in the canopy. And as you know, what's happened with a lot of the ash trees in particular, they've been dead several years and they're very brittle now. So they're beginning to break. The trunks are breaking off and the branches are breaking off. And this is one that broke. It didn't topple from the ground level. It broke in the wind event and has, hung up in the other adjoining trees. So
consequently, we now have a situation where it's, another good breeze might bring it down, just gravity alone could bring it down. I'm not quite sure what would happen there, but it's certainly something I think that needs to have a professional deal with. We've, we've, taken care of the issues of down branches and other trees that are at ground level, but this is one that sort of exceeds, a volunteer situation. So I don't know how you want to take a look at that. That's the information I'd like to present to you tonight.
Okay, does anybody have any suggestions? I mean, I'd be happy to go up and take a look.
Sure.
I'll go up and look. Maybe I'll take a friend, take a hike, take a look at it. And then I can bring it back to Jason. But thank you for bringing this to our attention, Phil.
Yeah,
I appreciate
like I said,
that.
we had, just in this past wind event, we had about 3 or 4 trees along the trail, and they've never taken care of, and we did some for Limerick as well. So we generally, just do it as a matter of course, as the Parks Board does for a lot of their stuff, but.
I remember
this
times
is one
before
that's-
where we had to go in and,
Yeah, right. We had that wind
Yeah.
event several years back where you and I and several other people had worked on those.
Where along the yellow trail is it?
It's roughly,
is it on the flatter part at the top? Closer
it's
to
not far
Limerick?
from the intersection of the red trail and the yellow trail.
Okay.
I will say closer to where the Furia.
I was going to say, when I was
meditative
there
area
the
is.
other week, there was some sketchiness near the Furia Memorial, but I don't recall whether this was the
Did you see
one.
some stuff up by Furia too?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
Thank
Last
you.
weekend I was there, before the wind.
Are there any other questions?
No, thank you, Phil. Is there anyone, Jason, is there anyone on Zoom?
I don't see any hands up.
Okay, well, if there isn't anything else pressing, this meeting is adjourned. What do you need?
Supervisor.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Supervisor comment before I adjourn?
Sure. I want to just say that I was pleased to see in the news this week that Upper Pottsgrove, I don't understand what they're thinking or drinking, but it was nice to see that some people know how to read the law, and I hope that they come to their senses and stop basically wasting taxpayers' money on a frivolous endeavor. It's somewhat distressing to see that, because I think people need to have confidence that when money is being kept for open space, that's what it's going to be used for. So in my opinion, that board has done a lot of damage to that program, and I think Kate Harper felt very strongly about that, and I think that's why she's gotten involved to the extent that she has. So I'm happy to see that the way that thing got decided. Other than that, be nice. Thanks.
Sorry, Chuck, can you be more specific for people who aren't familiar with that case, what the decision was?
Well, I mean, basically, they're not allowed at this point, I believe, to accept bids. So this is a case where the land was purchased originally with open space funds. And the township thought, well, gee, if we just take those funds from a different account and put them back into the open space, then we can do what we want with the property. That's the long and the short of it. But the bottom line is the law is very clear on that. If you use it for open space funds, if you use open space funds to purchase the property, you're committed to doing it. Now, there is a way out of that, and that is by doing a public referendum. They've always had that option to do a public referendum on that. They tried that down the road here on 29 in Perkiomen Township, and guess what? When they put it in front of the voters said, no, we don't want to sell that property, we want to keep it. And I suspect that the group there in Upper Pottsgrove also knows that they're not doing the will of the voters, and that's why they don't want to put it in front of the voters. I'd have to read the merger. I would have to read the Mercury, whether that was a Commonwealth court or whatever.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, the judge was Jeffrey Salt, so I think that's, what is that? I think that's Commonwealth Court.
Yes.
And by the way, as a side note, the township, there's 3 supervisors who are in support of this and 2 who are not. They've spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on engineering and architects and legal fees and unbelievable amounts of money to build on that specific piece of open space land. So, no, I'm sorry, it's not, it's Court of Common Pleas. It's a Court of Common Pleas, not Commonwealth.
Just small, yeah. Any other comments? Okay, meeting is adjourned.